What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of the Bronx and Big Blue Breakdown. I'm your host, Brady Heslin, and today we have a lot of interesting things to discuss. First, we will talk about the Yankees' past week and their hot stretch against the Nationals and the White Sox. We will also discuss the Giants' 53-man roster, and then we will head into looking into the future, and we will talk about the Yankees' tough upcoming schedule coming up, along with the Giants' Week 1 matchup against the Washington Commanders. I hope you all enjoyed the first episode. I appreciate all the support, but let's just hop right into it. So, the Yankees, they had a good week. I said that I wanted them to go at least 5-2 against the Nationals and the White Sox, and they went 6-1 and nearly went 7-0. They lost a tough one yesterday, 3-2. But let's just get into it. So, obviously, the offense looked great. A lot of home runs, led by Aaron Judge. Grisham hit really well. Bellinger hit really well. Overall, they handled business against bad teams, and that's what you want to see. You want to see them dominate these bad teams. Obviously, I believe it was the game Saturday. It went to extra innings, but I also don't mind seeing those games where that was a gutsy win. I feel like the Yankees team from 2-3 months ago, I don't think they win that game. Obviously, David Bednar was absolute nails in that game. But also shout out Cam Schlittler. He looked really good. He's been solid in his last couple starts. He was definitely in consideration for the stud this week, which we will get into in a little bit. But overall, I mean, Volpe, he started to look better. His defense was a little bit shaky, but with the bat, he started to look more confident. I still don't love his plate discipline at times. I know there's an at-bat yesterday when I was watching the game. It was 3-1, and he swung at a changeup that was out of the zone outside. So that got it to 3-2, and I was like, is that really your 3-1 swing? Is that? And then 3-2, he looks at a sinker inside that's a strike, and that's his at-bat. So that changed his at-bat right there. I'm pretty critical of Volpe, but he looked a lot better this week. So overall, just really solid. Obviously, Devin Williams, he blew the lead on Saturday, but thankfully the Yankees were able to get it back. Tim Hill gave up the home run yesterday, but Tim Hill, he's a dog. He has been solid for the Yankees this season. I feel like he's pitching all the time. He doesn't give up a lot of home runs. Unfortunately, yesterday he gave up a home run in a big spot. But I'll try to see if I'm forgetting anyone else. Oh, yeah, Rodon had a nice start in his return to Chicago. He's been really good this year. I feel like the resurrection of Carlos Rodon is not talked about enough with the Yankees. I mean, this was a guy that had an ERA over 6 in his first year with the team. People were calling him a bust already because the Yankees gave him that big contract. And now he is, since July, he's been the ace of this team with Fried, who has been struggling a bit. So I think I hit on pretty much everything there. End of the day, they handled business. They went 6-1. They improved a lot in the standings, which I'll talk about at the end of this when we're looking forward. So I'm trying to see if I'm forgetting anyone else. I mean, just solid all around. Stanton started to cool off a little bit, but that was bound to happen. I mean, he was just on fire. A guy I do kind of feel bad for is Jason Dominguez. He's just not really getting the playing time that I think he needs, but I just don't know who you sit right now. It's really tough to sit any of those outfielders. Shout out Jose Caballero, just playing every position, doing it just fine. He's becoming a quick fan favorite. I really like Jose Caballero. He's a guy that I'm glad is on the Yankees and not still on the Rays because he's just like a pest that you just cannot get rid of. So I think I hit on pretty much everything there. Yeah, just a great series overall. It's a great 2 series. Yankees took care of business. Now they've got to take care of business against tougher opponents, which we will get into when we look forward. So now let's hop into the New York Giants. So we are going to go over their 53-man roster, which came out this past week on Tuesday, and then they made some more moves. Claimed a couple guys off of waivers, which we also will talk about. So I'm going to go through my prediction, and then I'm going to talk about where I went wrong and who ended up making the team. So quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, those are the three I predicted. Those are the three that are on the roster. Tommy DeVito was waived and claimed by the Patriots. I'm not surprised by that at all. They got to see him firsthand in the preseason game. He will be their quarterback 3. I think he's going to a pretty good spot for like his brand and whatnot. So I think that's good for him. My prediction, I think he's going to wind up back with the Giants at some point in his career. And I think that's where he's going to retire, because that will, again, it will help his brand and his marketing and all of that for the rest of his life, basically. Like, I could see him being like an autograph signer and stuff at future events and that kind of thing, which you don't really see for like third string quarterbacks. He's just such a fan favorite in New York that I think he would be stupid to not try and find his way back at some point. Running backs, I predicted 3. Tyron Tracy, Cam Skadoo, Devin Singletary. Those are the 3 that made the team. Turbo Miller was cut like I predicted, but he is back on the practice squad, which I do think is good. He does have value, super fast. Just that's all he really has, honestly, is just that speed. He struggled a bit in the preseason with yards per carry and that kind of thing, and a lot of his yards just came off of screens. So I don't really think he deserved to make the roster. Again, he also isn't really much of a special teamer as well. So Turbo Miller, glad he's on the practice squad. If a guy goes down, you can easily just call him up, and I think he'll be fine. Wide receiver, this was the first one I got wrong. So Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Wandale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt. Gunnar Olszewski did make it over Amir Smith-Marset. I predicted that. I don't like that. I just don't. I think Smith-Marset is the better returner. He had a return touchdown last year. He had another one that was called back. And then with Carolina, he also had a return touchdown. And Gunnar Olszewski, he's mostly been a punt returner the last few years. He's only returned, I believe it's 4 kicks since 2021. He didn't play at all last year due to injury. And I just think if they're valuing him as a receiver, that is just a mistake, because he's not a very good receiver. And if someone gets hurt, like if Wandale gets hurt and they need a slot receiver, they're just going to sign somebody. They're not going to roll out Gunnar Olszewski. He's not a very good receiver. I don't even think he has 200 yards the last however many years he's been playing. Like, I don't see him having any value in the receiving game, and I just value Smith-Marset as a better returner. I think last year is honestly probably one of the better returners in the league. The Giants found him off of Carolina, and it was just so nice to have a guy that specialized in returning, because the Giants, they were just throwing like Eric Gray and other guys back there, and they were terrible. So it was just a breath of fresh air having Amir Smith-Marset at kick returner. I am really glad he's back on the practice squad, but I feel like there's just some sort of like bad blood between Smith-Marset and the Giants, and I think he's going to get picked up by another team because he's a valuable returner. Like, I think he's a very good returner, and I wanted him on the team, but it is what it is. And then the Giants kept Bo Collins over Lil Jordan Humphrey. I thought they were going to keep Humphrey just because I thought maybe he could get picked up by another team, especially on a practice squad. He did come back to the Giants practice squad, though. I think he's got the experience. He's a little bigger bodied. He had that touchdown with Dart in the preseason. I know Collins had a good preseason as well, but no one was going to claim Bo Collins. I mean, good on him for making the roster as a UDFA. I thought he was one of the better UDFAs that they brought in, and he's proven that. But I just don't, like, if someone gets hurt, they're just going to sign somebody. Like, I don't really see Bo Collins getting a ton of playing time. But honestly, if a guy goes down, I would rather see Bo Collins go into the game than Jalen Hyatt, just because I think Bo Collins is a better down in, down out wide receiver than Jalen Hyatt. And I posted TikTok, Instagram Reel, and YouTube Short talking about Jalen Hyatt. So I get why he's on the team, because he was a 3rd round pick. They put a lot of resources into him, and they want him to develop, and they know his values with the deep ball, and Russ throws a good deep ball. It's just he cannot be a down and down out wide receiver. He's not a good enough route runner. He doesn't have the IQ. He doesn't have the hands. Clearly, we saw that in the preseason. He hurts the team. I mean, there were literally games last year. he would start at wide receiver and not even get a target. Like, he just is not a good wide receiver. And the depth at wide receiver really scares me for the Giants. I mean, you've got Jalen Hyatt, Gunnar Olszewski, and Bo Collins as your backup receivers. I don't like that. I would have liked to have seen them bring in Gabe Davis, Trey Palmer, Isaiah Hodgins even. I know a lot of people – I saw people saying, oh, why should the Giants bring in Isaiah Hodgins? Like, he's not that good, whatever. He's better than Jalen Hyatt. He would come onto this roster right now, and he would be the wide receiver 4. He knows the playbook. He had like 500 yards on a team that wasn't really throwing the ball much in 2022. Like, Isaiah Hodgins would come onto this roster and immediately have an impact. But I digress. Tight end. This is another one I got wrong. The Giants kept Theo Johnson, Chris Manhertz, Daniel Bellinger, and Thomas Fidone, and cut Greg Dulcich. I thought they would keep Dulcich because I figured he'd get picked up by another team, which he did. He was picked up by the Dolphins on their practice squad. I apologize. Someone's car horn is going off in the street. But yeah, so Greg Dulcich is now gone. Kind of sucks because I do think he had some value, especially if Theo Johnson went down. He would be that guy that would be in on a second and long, third and long, that kind of thing. And I don't think anyone would really went out and got Thomas Fidone, but maybe I'm wrong because the Giants did cut 7th-round rookie Corey Black, and he was picked up by the Jets. And I understand why they like Fidone. It's just I think Bellinger right now is the better player, but I understand Fidone could develop into a better player than Dulcich. But this is like an interesting feeling because the Giants have not really had any guys get cut in the last few years where I'm like, dang, like I really wish we could have kept him. And that's how I feel about a guy like Greg Dulcich and Corey Black and Tommy DeVito and stuff like that. So it's a good thing that the Giants are cutting players and other teams are picking them up. And I'm like, dang, like I would have liked to have kept him. Offensive line. So Andrew Thomas, John Runyon, John Michael Schmitz, Greg Van Roten, Jarena Luminor, Marcus Bowe, Aaron Stinney, Evan Neal, James Hudson. Austin Schlottman didn't make the team because Josh Azudu was placed on IR. So I give myself like half credit for that. I'm sorry, something got messed up there, but I give him like myself half credit for that because Azudu was dealing with an injury, and I remember saying that if Azudu does go on IR, I think Schlottman will make the team. And I get why he is on the team. He's the backup center. If Michael Schmitz goes down, they will just go to Schlottman instead of having to rearrange the entire offensive line, which I do think is the right call there. So I give myself like half credit for the offensive line. Defensive line, they kept Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Raheem Nunez-Roche, Darius Alexander, Chauncey Golston, Roy Robertson-Harris, and DJ Davidson. The biggest surprise cut was Elijah Chapman, the defensive tackle / fullback. I thought they were going to keep him just because I felt like the team really liked him. They mic'd him up in the preseason. Now they're working him at fullback, which only helps his value. The issue is Elijah Chapman cannot play on first and second down. And on third down, his role has been overtaken by Abdul Carter and Chauncey Golston. And Brian Dable never uses a fullback. And I don't see him starting to use a fullback with a defensive tackle. So I'm not like upset that they caught him. I'm glad he's back on the practice squad, but it was just a surprise. I thought he would make the roster. Linebacker, Bobby Okereke, Micah McFadden, Darius Muasau, Chris Board, and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. I didn't have Flanagan-Fowles making the team. I thought like the injury stuff and whatnot might hold him off, but they kept him special teamer, whatever. I'm not like I'm totally fine with it. And I thought the other guys were pretty like much locks to make the roster. Corner, this was a weird one. So Paulson Adebo, Drew Phillips, Deontay Banks, Cordell Flott, Nick Jones, TJ Moore, and Art Green were all guys that made the team. Corey Black was cut and then signed by the Jets practice squad. This was a weird one to predict. I thought maybe they'd bring in some other guys at corner. They didn't really. They signed Rico Payton, but he's on IR dealing with a hamstring injury. So this was a tough one to predict. The Giants, again, their wide receiver and corner depth really scares me because like one guy goes down and then like Flat and Banks both have to play like all the time, and then you're like one away from having to put in like Art Green or Nick Jones. Like it's scary, and we're gonna get into that more when we're previewing the Commanders game. But yeah, it's not a great group. Thank goodness they got Paulson Adebo, but that's a position group they're gonna have to improve next offseason for sure, unless Banks or Flat just like completely break out this year, which I don't really see happening. And now it's safety. Tyler Newman, Javon Holland, Dane Belton, and then they claimed Bo Braid off of waivers. Braid will be mostly a special teamer, might come in a little bit and help with the run. I thought Raheem Lane was going to make the roster. He didn't. He was the fourth safety all throughout camp, but he did not make it, and they claimed someone. I did say, though, that I expected them to potentially look for someone on waivers at safety. They did that, but they didn't keep Lane at first. They just cut him and then brought someone else in and cut Corey Black instead. And then special teams, Gano, Gillen, and Kreider. So overall, I didn't do terrible. The one I was most kind of surprised about, most surprised cut was Elijah Chapman. The other ones I wasn't super surprised about. I kind of saw them coming. Even Dulcich, even though I wanted him on the team. The one I'm most upset about and have the most feelings about was Olszewski over Smith-Marset. I just really hope that doesn't come back to bite the Giants and Olszewski either gets hurt or has a fumbling issue. Because if you guys remember, he had a bit of a fumbling issue on kick returns in the past. So, but Olszewski is a good returner. Like I don't want to make it sound like he's terrible. I'm glad the Giants at least have someone on the team designated for returner, because I hated when they didn't have that and they were just rolling out whoever to return kicks, because that is really important, especially with the rule changes. Like a good returner is really valuable now in the NFL. So I think I hit on just about everything there. So let's head into this week's studs and duds. I was considering doing some for the Giants, even though they didn't play. Like I was gonna have maybe like Bo Collins be the stud because he made the roster, and then maybe like Elijah Chapman be the dud. But I decided not to do that. I don't think it's fair. So we're just gonna do studs and duds this week for the Yankees. So the stud is Aaron Judge. This was a tough one, honestly. I was between Judge, Schlittler, maybe Bellinger, but I went with Judge. He had 323 home runs, 5 RBIs. He had 8 walks, and most importantly, he's now tied for 5th all-time on the Yankees leaderboard, 4 home runs, tying Yogi Berra at 358. And he is closing in on 4, who I believe is it Joe DiMaggio, I believe? Let's see. Sorry, I didn't look this up. If I remember yesterday, I believe them saying it was Joe DiMaggio was... Yep, DiMaggio has 361. So he's going to pass DiMaggio this year as well. So it goes Ruth at 659. I don't think he's going to touch Ruth. Mantle's got 536. I think he's got a legit shot at Mantle. I would be pretty surprised if he doesn't pass Gehrig at 493. But yeah, he's definitely going to end up at least 4th all-time on Yankees home runs. So shout out Aaron Judge. Dude is an absolute baller. I think he is the MVP of the American League. Cal Raleigh's cooling off a little bit, really selling out for the home runs. I think Judge is the most valuable player in the American League and the best hitter on the planet. The dud is going to go to Paul Goldschmidt. I wasn't too sure who to pick for this one either. There weren't a ton of options, but I went through some stats. Goldschmidt, he went 3 for 19, no home runs, 1 RBI, no walks. The power just has not been there with Goldschmidt. Only got 10 home runs. Like, he's a pretty big dude. Just doesn't have the power this year. And I think that's just his age. I mean, he's 37, almost 38. I do think he's valuable because for the defense and flexibility, because Rice can catch with Goldschmidt at first. So he definitely has some value. Just had a tough week. That's all it really is. I think he's still a 700 OPS guy, like hitting like 270, I believe. So this dud is not nearly as much of a dud as last week's Anthony Volpe. I was considering picking maybe like Devin Williams or Tim Hill for the dud just because they blew leads, but I ended up going with Paul Goldschmidt. So now let's get into the fan mailbag. So the first question is going to be the what I believe the Giants' record is going to be for this season. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the Giants' schedule. I'm going to pick through every game, and that is going to decide how many games I believe the Giants are going to win this season. Obviously, the Giants have a tough schedule. That's no surprise at this point. So I'm just pulling it up right now. I'm going to go select the Giants, and let's do it. Let's see. So week 1, Giants travel to Washington. As much as my heart tells me I think the Giants are going to win, I think they do drop that game. I'm going to get into it a little bit more later, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but I think it's going to be a close one. I don't think the Giants are going to be able to pull out that one. Week 2, Giants travel to Dallas. I believe that's going to be their first win of the season. I am not high on Dallas at all after trading Micah Parsons, which let's talk about that a little bit as well. So Micah Parsons traded to Green Bay for Kenny Clark, 2 first-round picks. This helps the Giants tremendously, getting Parsons out of the division. He has been just a demon against the Giants in his career. I'm so glad he's gone. And who knows what Jerry Jones is doing. The Cowboys completely fumbled that situation, trading him a week before the season starts. I think the Eagles, all right, here's my prediction. I think the Eagles are going to beat the Cowboys by at least 20 on Thursday Night Football. I think they are going to get their teeth kicked. But here we go. Week 3, Chiefs at Giants. I think this is going to be a close game. Giants historically struggle though on prime time. I think the Chiefs pull out. Maybe it's like a 2017 win. Week 4, Chargers at Giants. This is a tough one, man. This is a tough one. I think I'm going to go with the Chargers, though. I think that's a good team right there. Week 5, Giants at Saints. I think the Giants get a win there, so they're sitting at 2-3. They now have to play the Philadelphia Eagles on a short week. They are at home, but I think the Eagles get the best of them there in week 6, so they're 2-4. Now coming off a mini bye, they travel to Denver. I think they sneak one out there in Denver. And the Giants now sit at 3-4, right around 500. Now they got to travel to Philadelphia. I think Philly sweeps them this year. Going to go Philly there. San Francisco at NYG. I could see this being a sneaky Giants win, but I think I'm going to go San Francisco. Week 10, Giants go to Chicago. I'll take New York in that one. So the Giants now at 4-6. Green Bay travels now to New York. I think Green Bay takes that one. Giants at Detroit. I think Detroit takes that one. Tough place to play. Week 13, it's going to be Giants at New England. I think the Giants pick up a win on Monday Night Football, finally get a dub on primetime, and now they're heading into the bye, sitting at 5-8. Coming out of the bye, the Commanders travel to the Giants. Could be Jackson Dart's first start. I will be in attendance for this game. I think the Giants get a W there. So they got a little 2-game win streak sitting at 6-8. Now I think they kind of flutter out a little bit. I think Minnesota gets them playing the Raiders. Saturday game. I might change some things around here. So I have the Giants at 8-9. I think that's a little high. I think that is a little high. What game? I don't know. I think 8. I think 7-10 is where I want to be. Maybe I think Denver gets them after the mini bye. So I have the Giants. My record prediction for the Giants is 7-10. This is probably might be a little bit generous, but I just think they're a much better roster than what they were the past couple years. And I think 7-10 would be a much improvement or a much improved season for the Giants. Right now, they're 2-6 at home, 5-4 on away. That kind of checks out. The Giants struggle at home. 3-3 in the division would be great. So yeah, Giants record prediction 7-10. The other question is my prediction for the Yankees in their tough stretch of games coming up. So let's pull up the Yankees schedule. If you guys don't know, they have a tough schedule coming up. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in the last segment where I'm doing the looking forward. So they got 3 against Houston, 3 against Toronto, 3 against Detroit, and 3 against Boston. So they got 12 games against 4 of the best teams in the American League. This is probably the biggest stretch that the Yankees are going to have all year. I think they take 2 or 3 from Houston. I think they take 2 or 3 from Toronto. So I think they're sitting at 4-2. I think no. I think they take 2 or 3 from Houston. I think they lose the series to Toronto, so they're 3-3. I think they take 2 or 3 from Detroit, so they're sitting at 5-4. And I think they take. So I think they go 6-6. I think they go 500. If they go over 500, let me say this. If they go 8-4, or they win the series against both Toronto and Boston, I'll be fully backing on this team. Obviously, they played great this week, but they're against 2 of the worst teams in baseball. I need to see them beat good teams. They have been terrible this year against the AL East, specifically Toronto and Boston. If they can win those series, I'm fully in on this team. If they don't, I'm going to be like, man, I think they're going to get in the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to do any damage. I need to see them play well and defeat Toronto and Boston. That's what I need as a fan. I think that's what a lot of fans need. Prediction 6-6. I think the floor is probably 4-8. I think the ceiling is probably like 8-4 for that stretch. All right. Let's move on to the next segment here. It's going to be This Week in History. I couldn't find a ton. Here's what I did find. They both are actually from last season. So for the Yankees, on August 25th, 2024, Aaron Judge becomes one of only 5 players ever with 3 50 home run seasons. He hit 50 and 51 on the same day, and he joined Babe Ruth, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and A-Rod, as one of just 5 MLB players with 3 separate 50 home run seasons. Every year, Aaron Judge is setting records. Last year, he did that. This year, he's joining the Yankees' top 5 in home runs. We are witnessing one of the greatest players to ever play the game. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Yankees fan. When it's all said and done, there will be a conversation about whether or not Aaron Judge is the best right-handed hitter to ever play the sport. This guy is going to change Hall of Fame voting forever because he's not going to have the hit total. He's not going to have the games played. But this guy is, without a doubt, he could retire. I believe he could retire today and go become a what would be a job? He could go become a gym teacher, or he could go work in a bakery right now, and he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I truly believe that because his stretch and his prime has been so good that I believe Aaron Judge is without a doubt already a Hall of Famer. Debate a wall. For the Giants, I couldn't really find much, so I found some things from last year, some guys that they waived. Here's some interesting names. They cut Jakob Johnson. Remember, they had him. They had an actual fullback, and he got signed and cut. And then last year, when they played, wasn't it Germany? They played in Germany, and Jakob Johnson was like getting promoted like for the game, and then the Giants didn't even like have him active for the game. They cut Turbo Miller, which they did this year. Isaiah Hodgins. Wish they could have kept Hodgins, man. He'd be wide receiver 4. And Lawrence Cager was also cut. So here we are. We're at the last segment. So I kind of already talked about the Yankees. I'll go over it one more time. So they got 3 at Houston, and then they got 3 home versus Toronto. They have to go at least 500 or better. Beat Toronto. Let's beat Toronto. Please. And so let's do a standings update as well. So they are 76 and 61. They are 3 games back of the AL East. So they gained 2.5 games just in this week. They are up half a game on Boston. They're up 3 games on Seattle. And they are up 5.5 on the Texas Rangers. So this is a team that's going to make the playoffs. It just matters not whether they're going to compete for the division or not. And a lot of that is going to be figured out when they play Toronto. They have to beat that team that they just cannot beat. They need that win so bad. Let's make it happen. Someone step up. And now let's get into the final talking point of the episode. The Giants' Week 1 matchup versus the Washington Commanders. I cannot believe that this is already here. So on Sunday, 1 o'clock, the Giants will be in Washington taking on the Commanders. They come in as 6.5-point underdogs. I am 17. I cannot bet. If I was a betting man, I would bet the Giants spread. They always play Washington tough. Last year, they almost beat them without a kicker. Like, if the Giants had a kicker last year, they win that game in Washington. They always play them tough. I think the Giants, even if they lose by 6, even if they lose 20-14 to cover the spread. But let's talk a little bit about this matchup. So I think one big deciding factor is what wide receiver 1 goes off, because both Terry McLaurin and Malik Neighbors both have favorable matchups, in my opinion. If I was the Giants, if I was Shane Bowen, I would have Paulson Adebo travel with Terry McLaurin all game. You've had all year to prepare for this matchup. Terry McLaurin is by far their best wide receiver. Adebo needs to travel with him. You signed him to be the CB1. I know he's coming off injury. You got to have him travel with McLaurin. You cannot have Banks on him. You cannot have Flott on him. McLaurin will eat them alive. You need to have Adebo travel with McLaurin. And for the Giants, I think McNeighbors should sauce up Marshawn Lattimore. Lattimore, he's getting older, a lot of injuries, not the player he used to be. Neighbors, he's young, he's rested. Hopefully he's healthy. Russ should be able to get him the ball. Neighbors needs to go crazy. We need at least 100 yards from Neighbors this game if the Giants want to win. Next talking point, Giants offensive line I guess we can talk about a little bit more. So Giants O-line versus Commanders D-line, and then Giants D-line versus Commanders O-line. So for the Giants offensive line, with Andrew Thomas's health, we don't really know a lot about it. It's really worrying me. So it's likely going to be James Hudson at left tackle, which I hate. I think he's terrible. But what are you going to do? So Giants, they need to win up front. They got to win up front. I feel like I say it all the time. Got to hold up in pass protection. Russ needs to get rid of the ball quickly. He likes to hold on to the football. Can't do that, especially if Thomas is hurt. So they'll probably be Hudson, Runyon, Michael Schmitz, Van Roten, and Illuminar across the offensive line, with Bo being the swing tackle, Stinney being the backup guard, and then Schlottman being the backup center. And you also have Evan Neal, but he might end up being inactive. So got to win up front. And then same thing for the Giants pass rush with a guy like McLaurin, who's a huge threat, and with Daniels' scrambling ability. Giants D-line, they got to show why the Giants have put this much resources into the defensive line. Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, those guys got to win up front. You got to contain Jaden Daniels. I would not be surprised to see maybe Abdul Carter, maybe a linebacker like McFadden or Okereke, or even a safety come into the box and spy Jaden Daniels in certain situations, because you got to contain his legs, as he is one of the best scramblers in the NFL. And last thing I want to talk about, which I feel like never gets talked about enough, special teams. We need a clean special teams game. Going back to last year, Graham Gano gets hurt, chases down a kickoff. Giants don't have a kicker, and that's the main reason they lost the football game. Giants, they need a clean special teams game. Gunnar Olszewski, hold on to the football. Graham Gano, make your kicks. Jamie Gillen, punt, bombs, show why you're the Scottish Hammer. We just need a clean game. Let's win the turnover battle. I feel like these are things you can say against any team, but especially when you're 6.5-point underdogs. against a team that was in the NFC Championship last year, division rival. That's what you got to do to win this game. I am super pumped up. This is a huge week for both the Yankees and the Giants. I cannot wait to break it all down next week. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, like it. If you're on Spotify, I think it's like follow it, share it with your friends. If you're Yankee fans, Giants fans, whoever, make sure you share it. Follow all my social medias. The link will be in the description. And yeah, I will see you guys next Monday. Let's go Yankees and let's go Giants.